Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar. Then we'll go through the UK Met Office run, have a look at 5-day precipitation and temperature, and then we'll have a look at the GFS, the GM, the ECMWF and the GFS and ECMWF Ensembles for the next couple of weeks, as it does look like we're going to be seeing quite cold weather over the next 7 to 10 days. Pretty chilly for this time of year, and it does look like we will be seeing some snow returning for hills and mountains, especially in the north, but not exclusively. There could even be some low-lying snow as well at times, and we'll have a look at that. No details, of course, because it still is sort of 5 to 7 days away, but we'll be having a look at what the potential that there is for many areas, actually. Very interesting seeing what's going to be happening over the next couple of weeks. The southerly track jet stream, low pressure coming in off the Atlantic, bumping into cold air being pumped out of the Arctic. We could really be seeing quite a few wintry scenes for many. And as I said, even if you don't see those wintry scenes and they stay towards higher elevation, it's going to be cold for many with below average temperatures. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure to like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. So do start on the live radar. You can see actually cold air that we have had over the last few days as a result of that cold front that spread southwards through sort of Wednesday. We now have milder air pushing back in. That cold air is moving away to our far southeast, and we have much milder, moister air coming in off the Atlantic, and you can see sort of conveyor belt of moisture bringing in, providing this heavy precipitation over Scotland. Pretty much all of Scotland is being rained on at the moment. A couple gaps in the radar, but that won't be for long. It does look like most of Scotland is getting light to moderate, if not a bit heavy rain, especially over the higher ground. This is all going to spread southeastwards. It's going to be a bit of a precipitation mess over the next 24 hours. A lot of on and off rain. It's not going to be torrential. There may be some heavier pulses within the bands of rain, but it's going to be quite on and off. Rain for a couple hours, doesn't rain for a couple hours. A lot of sort of bands of drizzly rain, lighter rain, on and off. But it does look like it's going to be very cloudy and pretty miserable, really, out there as this rain spreads southeastwards over the next day. Beyond that, we do start to see it clear. And then we start to see northerly winds come back in with another low pressure system. And that's where things really do become interesting. And we'll have a look at that in detail in this video. So do now have a look at the UK Met Office run. Have a look at precipitation temperature over the next 5 days. Now you can see this from the 3 o'clock run this morning. You can see no precipitation at all. But wind forward to when I'm recording this video, around 4 PM, you can see that heavy precipitation coming in, a bit of snow over the highest ground, but because it's quite warm or mild, moist air coming off the North Atlantic, it's going to produce snow only to the highest mountains. You can see that precipitation moves southwestwards in a bit of a mess through the early hours. Lots of on and off precipitation, and yeah, does not look great at all. Lingering in the south through rush hour, and again you can see more precipitation just getting brought in for the afternoon. Lots of on and off rain, patchy showers as well, especially in the north and the west, but not exclusively. You wouldn't be surprised to be seeing some drizzle even in this thicker cloud further southwards and eastwards. Through Monday evening, we do start to see that precipitation initially clear before we see another low arrive by early hours of Tuesday, but you can see cold air digging in back in from the north, and that means we're going to start to see heavy snow over the high ground of northern Scotland. And as that does fall as snow, the low pressure does eventually move away and pull out into the North Sea, and we go back into a northerly wind, and you can see cold air digging in from the north for many areas, and you can see heavy snow showers across northern England and Scotland as well. And then you see another low pressure system. This is why I said southerly track jet stream. The centre of this low is coming through the channel into northern France, many hundred miles southwards of where generally we'd be seeing the jet stream and these low pressure systems. And what it does is bump into that cold air, and we see heavy snow, potentially even to low-lying areas within the heavier precipitation, where we see evaporative cooling mixing in with that cold air falling through the early hours of Thursday. Heavy rain elsewhere, and we can see a lot of snow with that perhaps before it does eventually move away and we all go into a very cold air mass. Now, another way of viewing that, it's difficult to see exactly on the precipitation, sort of the air masses, but if we have a look at the 850 HPA air masses, you can see earlier this morning, really quite cold. That's why sort of widespread frosts this morning, very cold, -7 degrees, and we'll have a look at the temperatures in a minute on the surface. So you can see these warm upper air temperatures at 850 HPA spreading through at the moment. Big conveyor belt of moisture. See warm upper air temperatures, but that real cold air is just to our north once again. And through early hours of Tuesday, it starts to spread in, turning things to wintry over the higher ground in Scotland. And then we see it slowly pull southwards. And through Wednesday and Thursday, we see that cold air dig in, even to England. And where it collides with that big warm, moist core of that low pressure system, that's where we see snow. And this is one of the big things with these sort of systems. You can see there is a 10+ degree temperature contrast in the space of like 50 to 100 miles. Very, very strong temperature gradients, and it fuels the precipitation, but it also creates real headaches for trying to forecast rain, sleet and snow and the temperatures, because under that sort of 5 or 6 degree 850 HPA temperatures, it'll be 10 degrees. Under the -5 degree area, it is more likely to be 1 or 2 degrees. So big differences. But eventually, as that low pressure moves through, we all go back into that real cold air in from the north, and this sort of pattern continues for a good few days, with low pressure systems sliding in to that cold air. Now, if we do have a look at the 2-meter temperatures, what we're actually going to see at the surface, you can see earlier this morning, really quite cold. -7 degrees was seen for a few in sort of rural areas, but widely sort of -1 to -4. As you can see today, pretty chilly day for many. Still 7 to 9 degrees, still a bit of a chill to the air, but you can see milder areas pushing into the northwest, and you can see by tomorrow afternoon, temperatures are a couple of degrees up, getting to around 13-14 degrees in the far southeast. But colder air is starting to dig in from the north, and you can start to see temperatures dropping across Scotland. And by Tuesday afternoon, widely low single digits, if not towards freezing across parts of Scotland, but 15 degrees potentially in the south. And then through Wednesday night, see those temperatures do drop across Scotland, but elsewhere don't really drop at all, only maybe to around 9-10 degrees. And then by Wednesday afternoon, 12-13 degrees in the far southeast, below freezing across Scotland. And then by early hours of Thursday, you can see very cold in the north, -1 to 3 degrees, if not getting below that over higher ground. And by Thursday, you can see as that precipitation moves in, you see a pocket of blues where we see that that sort of line between the rain and snow, where we see that heavier precipitation. Evaporative cooling, as I said, cools down those temperatures very quickly. So actually, it's 1 or 2 degrees under that snow. Further northwards, it's 3, 4, 5 degrees, and further southwards, it's 10 or 12 degrees. And this, as well as I said, gives massive headaches, these sort of systems, as there can be massive contrast, massive differences in the space of 10, 20, 30 miles. It truly is sort of exceptional. We see these sort of microclimate conditions. So it's very difficult to forecast because, of course, these lines move even slightly. The air masses move even slightly. The orientation of the low pressures move even slightly. It completely skews everything off. So we've got to keep an eye on this, but it does look like Thursday will be quite a chilly day, and once the precipitation stops falling, you can see widely as that cold air does dig back in 3 or 4 degrees in the south, across sort of northern England with a bit more sunshine around, perhaps 7 to 9 degrees, and elsewhere across Scotland still quite cold, and you can see early as of Friday, temperatures drop away rapidly down to -2 to 4 degrees. Sort of Wednesday to Friday, we can't look at that too literally, because as I said, it all depends on the exact positioning of the low pressure systems, and how far southwards those air masses do dig, and how early. But at this stage, it does look chilly indeed. Now, if we do run through the latest from the sort of mid to long range models, have a look at the GFS, GM, and ECMWF, see what they're showing. You can see at the moment, we do have high pressure toppling with that milder northwesterly flow coming in. Now, northwesterly flow is generally cold, but because it's going around the centre of the high pressure system, it's actually quite a mild sector. As it does move through, you can see another low pressure system develops along the jet stream, and on its back edge, we start to go back into a northerly wind, bitterly cold northerly wind in the north especially, and then you see these little sliding lows through Thursday just to our south along the jet stream, where that jet stream with the black line going through the northern France, the Bay of Biscay. You can see these low pressure systems following through it and heavy precipitation along that. We stay like that, and towards sort of Monday, Tuesday, in over a week's time, we start to see more sort of a weirder sort of systems develop with more of a southerly wind potentially. With these sort of scenarios, especially being in spring, we can go from northerly to southerly winds very quickly as that high pressure does sort of move. You can see it's just to our west, pulling a northerly wind, and then it transitions further eastwards and starts to pull up a southerly wind. So that's something we do need to keep an eye on. Although it is looking cold over the next week, we could transition to something warmer very quickly. But being in low pressure, it's not going to be warmer and drier. It's likely to be milder and warmer, but perhaps be accompanied by heavy showers and maybe even some thunderstorms as well. Now, beyond that, we do start to see low pressure run back in off the Atlantic, but high pressure continues to our north, blocking and never too far away from another northerly flow. But as I said in yesterday's video, the further we get into April, the more that cold air to our north runs out. So any northerly slap towards the middle of end of April is going to be nowhere near as severe as the one we've just seen, or we could be seeing this next week or so. So we do run back and have a look at the upper air temperatures, see what that does show. So you can see mild over the next day, then cold air digging back into the north, and as those low pressures are sliding, you can see -5 line is sitting across of the M4 line from Bristol all the way to London. Very, very cold air colliding with milder air, and we see heavier precipitation. Beyond that, we start to see that push of southerly winds, potentially real warm upper air temperatures coming up. Very temporary, before we just get pushed away by more Atlantic air, and we go back into more of a northerly flow, very temporarily there. And right at the end of the run, we start to pull in back another northerly. So again, this does show you with these sort of blocking patterns being in April, where we do have very warm air to our south, very cold air to our north, we can go very quickly from northerly to southerly flows and vice versa. So there is potential we do see days of snow over the next couple of weeks, and we also see maybe 20 degrees in the last 10 days of April as well. So there's going to be a big mix of conditions over the next couple of weeks. Can't say exactly what is going to happen because, as I said, small orientation shifts, small positional shifts of low pressure, high pressure systems can make massive differences. But at this stage, there definitely does look like there will be some very cold weather coming up over at least the next week. Beyond that, that's when we could start to see maybe some warmer conditions start to come in, and perhaps more colder weather after that as well. So we do now have a look at the GM run, see how that does compare to the GFS, then we'll have a look at the ECMWF, see how that does compare to those as well. So you can see high pressure toppling, and we start to pull in a bit of a northerly wind by sort of Wednesday, Thursday. Low pressure system sliding into that, and we stay on the cold side of the jet stream and just continue like that. Really chilly indeed, with the jet stream diving very far to our south. If we do run it back and have a look at those upper air temperatures, you'll be able to see the cold air digging in from the north. Once again, turning things much colder. And you can see warmer edges to our south, and along that boundary, that's where we could see some heavy snowfall and at least colder conditions as well. And you can see maybe a little bit of a push of warmer there, but by day 10, we are still generally on the northern side of the jet stream, which isn't majorly cold this time of year, but it is chilly and colder than average, really. And it does look like we're going to continue to see at least some cold weather for the next week or so, even on this GM run as well. Now, if we do have a look at the ECMWF run, as I said, if we do run through it, you can see low pressure dominating, high pressure toppling at the moment, and then we start to see northerly winds come in, low pressure dominating with that, and potentially a bit of snow, as I said, and then we start to see a southerly wind push, very similar to the GFS run, and then we go back real low pressure dominated. So a massive mix, as I said, again, all because from southerly to northerly winds can happen very quickly in this sort of scenario, transferring air masses drastically. You see milder air, and then we see colder air dig back in from the north for a period of time, and then we see southerly winds potentially in around 8 days' time, but that's very temporary before we go more back into a westerly flow once again. If we do finally finish up, I have a look at the GFS Ensembles. Now you can see at the moment we've got cold upper air temperatures in the far southeast, but they're going to be rapidly warming by a good 10 degrees over the next 12 to 24 hours, and then they'll slowly drop again as those northerly winds come back in. Now you can see some of the runs don't have those northerly winds all getting all the way to the south, but the majority do now, getting down towards -5 at 850 HPA. Pretty cold indeed. And beyond that, as I said, in maybe 8 days' time, we start to see a push of southerly winds. So from perhaps 5 degrees below average, to 5 to 10 degrees above average, sort of a 15-degree temperature swing. From daytime temperatures of sort of 5, 6, 7 degrees to suddenly 20 degrees. It is possible in the space of only a few days. So that's something we do have to keep in mind. I keep reminding you that we can see these swings very, very quickly in April. Beyond that, though, temperatures return to more around average. But one thing I must stress, as I said before, it is looking very unsettled regardless of those upper air temperatures indeed. And I also do want to show off Aviemore, which is up in the Highlands of Scotland. And you can see the significant snow you could be seeing there. You can see their average line is a couple of degrees colder than in London, of course. And you can see towards the end of this week, it is going to be cold, with cold air set in, and you can see all the runs going for colder than average conditions. And you just have a look at the new snow depth, and you can see massive snow spikes over the coming week. Potentially could be seeing 10, 20, 30 centimetres build up. Of course, it will melt away because it is April, strong sunshine, but just shows you the potential that there is there for seeing more heavy snow. So if you do have a look at the ECMWF run, just to finish, we'll have a look at London for this. You can see, again, cold at the moment, turning milder, and then we've got a bit more uncertainty with the ECMWF run. Quite a few of them do go cold eventually, but struggle to get there. So we have to keep an eye on that. It could just drag that snow line slightly further northwards instead of being towards the M4 like the GFS runs and the ensembles have, maybe more towards the Midlands or Northern England. And that's something we need to keep an eye on because it can make, as I said, drastic condition differences between heavy snow and heavy rain and dry conditions. So we've got to keep an eye on that for later this week. And then it generally does go colder though, with probably quite a few frosts around regardless. And then upper air temperatures go quite high, and you can see the ECMWF run gets towards 10 degrees at 850 HPA, which would be sort of 20 degrees potentially in the south, and then returns to around or slightly above average. But quite a few precipitation spikes as well from the ensemble, so it is very unsettled as well. So it's looking like we're going to be seeing a lot of unsettled weather coming up, cold as well, and the potential for heavy snow, maybe even to low-lying areas, but most likely over higher ground, especially in the north and across Scotland. It isn't too unusual for this time of year, but considering the lack of snow we've had this winter, we could be seeing the snowiest spell, really, the last sort of 6 months coming up in terms of sort of snow depths for many areas in northern England and Scotland, potentially. Again, all depends on exact air masses and orientations, and it's something we need to keep an eye on. But we could be seeing quite a snowy and cold week coming up for some. So yeah, make sure you do stay safe out there if you are over higher ground in the north, and keep an eye on the forecast because things can change very, very quickly. As I said, could see 5 to 10 degree temperature swings very quickly if these models do slightly alter positionings of the air masses. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.